that showing up all right for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome to this October 6th card meeting by Zoom. We always start with the introductions, and I will go first. I'm Roger Rail, Chair of CARD and Chair of Sci Residents for Safe Water, and I'm into my 28th year as an unpaid citizen volunteer watching over this slow motion disaster. So I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see the full screen and have people go through in the order I see them on my screen. Meanwhile, Beth will add people. I'll let you go next, Beth. You're next on my list.
Hi, Beth Collins, Ann Arbor resident and Secretary of CARD.
You're muted, Roger.
It's like I haven't done this before. Jack is next, followed by Patty. And everybody's gonna have to unmute before they talk.
Jack is muted.
You can just press space bar too.
Are we taking roll? I'm sorry, I'm here.
Yeah, we're doing introductions.
I'm Jack.
Yeah.
I'm a city council member for 2 more regular council meetings.
Amy Call with Tetra Tech.
Then Bob. And then Harvey.
I'm Bob Bailey, resident of Scioview Township and chemist by trade.
Harvey Summers, Scioview Township historian by trade.
Joshua, and then Cynthia.
Hi, Josh Mosier, Assistant Division Director for RRD EGLE.
I'm Cynthia Price, interested resident, and I have to apologize in advance. I have to get off about 5 minutes to 7.
Remind us again where you live, Cynthia.
I live in near Georgetown.
Oh, okay. Good to have you.
Georgetown area.
Vince, and then Rita. Rita La Caruso.
Yep, Vince Caruso, board member of CARD, coordinating member for the Alps Creek Watershed Group, Ann Arbor City resident.
Rita La Caruso. I'm also a member of CARD and resident of the city of Ann Arbor. I'm faculty member at the University of Michigan, and I'm a toxicologist.
Jillian, and then Jim Schultz.
Jillian Curie, Scioview Township resident.
Jim Schultz.
Jim Schultz, CARD member and concerned citizen.
Then we'll get into the Katies here. Kathy Griswold, and then Katie.
Hi, Kathy Griswold, Ward 2, Ann Arbor City Council, ready to take action.
All right, and I'm Katie Jositis from Congresswoman Dingell's office.
James, and then Rita, the other Rita.
My name is James Jamore. I am a member of the Sierra Club. I was a member of the executive committee of the Huron Valley Group when we petitioned the US EPA to do an investigation to declare the Gilman Bloom Superfund site. I am still active with the Sierra Club. I am also a member of CARD. I live in Ann Arbor.
Rita Mitchell. I live in the Old West Side. I'm newly appointed to the Environmental Commission of the City of Ann Arbor. And just an update, last night we did pass a resolution to request City Council to reject the CJ.
Wow, great.
Thanks. Let's see, did I already, I don't think we did you yet. Bob Hyde and then Diana, I should say.
I am Bob Hyde. I'm a Scioto Township resident.
Diane O'Connell, Ann Arbor Township.
Then Shanna Milkey and then Kathy Knoll.
Hi, I'm Shauna Milkey, concerned citizen of Ann Arbor and member of CARD.
Hello, Kathy Knoll, Scioto Township trustee, CARD representative.
Then Sue and Ann.
Hi, I'm Sue Schenk. I'm Washtenaw County Commissioner for District 2 and Board Liaison to CARD.
Hi, I'm Ann Bannister, outgoing Ward 1 City Councilwoman through November 5. And I also serve on the Environmental Commission with Rita Mitchell and Stephen Brown and John Mursky and others.
And Ann's out walking around. John and Jeff.
Well, I'm one of the Johns. My name is John Reiser. I live in Scioto Township, about a mile from the Gelman factory plant.
Welcome. Jeff's on the phone.
If you can hear me, my name's Jeff Hayner. I'm Ward 1 City Council in Ann Arbor and CARD member, and I have a deep interest in industrial processes, and I may be dropping off and joining again through a different medium because I'm in transit. So thanks for your patience.
Thanks for joining. I guess the only one I see left is Dan Hamill. And then after him, we'll go back to the agenda.
I'm Dan Hamill. I'm the RRD EGLE project manager for the Gelman site. My office is in Jackson. But currently
wait a minute. I do see some
Roger?
other people here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only
Okay,
looking
good.
at
I was gonna
screen
say
one.
Jason Morgan, Megan Cotter, there's
Yeah,
Kristen, Jen.
I got him. So Jason, you're next on my screen, and then Megan.
Hey, Roger. This is Jason Morgan, Chair of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners. Also in transit, out and about here. So I'm listening for the first little bit, and then we'll hop on my computer when I'm back at home.
Okay. Megan?
Cotter. My actually partner, Mike Edison, is who told me about this. So I am learning what CARD is, and I don't actually know what it is, but he's very interested and I'm very interested. Mike works at Adaptive Energy in town, which is a fuel cell company. I'm a local nurse practitioner at Packard Health in Ann Arbor, and we live in the Lakewood neighborhood, so right by Lakewood schools.
Thanks for joining. Kristen, and then Jenny.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Chwaykofer. I'm the Environmental Health Director with the Washtenaw County Health Department.
And I'm Jenny Kahn, the Public Health Engineer for the Washtenaw County Health Department.
Then Carrie, and then whoever's on the iPhone. Not you, Jeff. It's this one. It says iPhone. So Carrie, can you unmute, please? Carrie? All right, we'll go to whoever's on iPhone. I have no phone number associated with, just says iPhone. Who's on the iPhone? Must be a Gelman lawyer.
I wonder if I accidentally joined through a different interface somehow because I was having difficulty earlier. And it could be two of me by
Okay. Carrie, are you there? Carrie Letke?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead
Okay.
and introduce yourself.
Great, thanks. So I just want to introduce myself. It's Carrie Letke. I'm a concerned citizen as well, and I was unable to get it on the phone, although I am in transit as well. I am a concerned citizen. I'm informing other citizens and trying to bring more attention and recognition to what's all going on. And thank you all, especially Roger, for what you've been doing. I am also the vice president of Walnut Ridge neighborhood.
Walnut Ridge. Okay. Welcome. Let's see. Have I got everybody? Going back and taking one quick look here. Looks like it. All right. I'm going to, somebody put something in chat. Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh, yes, I've been getting emails from Welcome to the New to Megan and Carrie, and I've got their emails now. I'll get you guys on the lists. And then Roger, our next item is for the board approval of the minutes from September 1st. Does someone want to move to do that?
I'll move.
Still letting someone else in. Okay.
Or
someone just joined.
This is Sue Schenk.
Okay, all those on the board in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Good job.
We got one more new person who I got to go back and look at who that, see that is. Did they drop off?
It looks like Froda, I'm going to say this wrong. I'm so sorry. Froda Masagveg?
That's very well said. Yes, Froda Masagveg, that's me. Yes, I'm a little late, sorry.
Do you want to tell us about yourself, where you live? And
Oh, okay. Yeah. My wife and I live on 5127 Dexter Ann Arbor Road. It's about a half a mile east of Zeeb Road, and on the south side of the road. And we've been here since 77, and we're very concerned about the topic of tonight and so on. And I got this message from Jillian Carey, and I would like to hear what's going on. Thank you, Jillian, for letting me in and letting me know. So and I think I'm on the same page as most of you.
well, thanks for coming. And you've lived here 2 years longer than I have.
How about that?
Maybe you should be chair. Anyway, let's go back. I think we're going to go through. Oh, got another one coming in. Another iPhone coming in. All right, so we're going to go through old business here, starting with EGLE's update from the carryover from previous meetings. Go ahead, Dan. We talked about this briefly, this item AA, briefly before everybody got on. So if you want to give a little update on that, what happened last time and what the status is.
That agenda item is related to the discussion that we had on our last in the September card meeting. It was a quarterly meeting. Quarterly meetings involve more EGLE representatives, and the AG was on the line for that meeting. Their stakeholders had asked about data related to the investigation activities that Gelman had completed historically on their property and in the marshy area, which is north of their property, and asked whether that data was released or can be released. Our AG indicated that that could be released and is pursuing that. He has told me as of yesterday that Gelman has not officially given the data. He has reminded them and asked them and will continue to ask them. This data is not related, it's investigation data, but it's not, we've informed Gelman that it's not under the confidentiality. It is data, and that we are officially requesting it, which we are allowed to do under Michigan environmental law and then the CJ, too, the current CJ. So that's where it sits right now. We will get the data out to people like I normally do with data once we receive that. So that's the latest for that item.
Quick question. I want to interject here instead of waiting for the discussion at the end. Did you just say that it's not part of the confidentiality agreement?
Yes, that it was information. We informed Gelman that it was information that was gathered and that we can request that data and release that data. So as you have pointed out, there are certain items, technical items that are under the confidentiality agreement related to the negotiations that have been ongoing for approximately 3 years. We have informed Gelman that this is not that type of data and have officially requested it.
Okay, so does this cover does this cover what started it all back in 2017, when I noticed that there was what looked like roads in a marshy area on the Google Earth base layer, and that got me to looking for what was going on there. And at a subsequent CARD meeting, people were saying, well, we can't talk about that because it was in part of the negotiations. But then Brian Nagel said, well, if anybody's going to get into trouble, it might as well be me. Those are truck mats, not roads. Is that what we're talking about? That there's some sampling going on in the marshy area, and that's the data that's going to be released that now is not part of the negotiations?
That data, you are correct. That data, the investigation data that was collected is the data we are requesting from Gelman. And I've been informed from the AG that will, he has requested that. And once we get it, we will make that public as we require to do with Gelman data.
But just to clarify, now it's not secret. It's not supposed to be secret.
I'm not sure it was at the beginning was identified as part of, Gelman may have identified that as part of confidentiality, but we currently have decided or identified it that it isn't, and we have requested that data to be made part of the official EGLE file, which then allows it to be released.
Huh. So we could have gotten this 2.5 or 3 years ago?
Roger, I'm not gonna, I guess I'm not the one to make that statement. It is the current interpretation that data, is we've requested it and will be released.
And last meeting, Brian said he would get it by this meeting.
Well, he has not.
Okay, well, I guess we need to go on to the next item.
The next item is where is a QA document that EGLE said would be provided to the public after the public comments. And we are generating that summary document. Public comment period for the EGLE presentation was over on September 21st. We received written comments through the mail. We received email comments. We received to the EGLE email address that we set up for comments. So we are compiling that information. Our goal is to have that. Compiled by the October 22nd meeting with the judge. You know, the objective is the primary objective. The primary purpose for that document is to have been able to file with the motion to enter into the consent judgment if that occurs. So the date of October 22nd is the date we're working toward. If we have it, we will release it, as we've said. If we have that compiled prior to that date, I will put it on the web page, but that is the date that we are working to be able to have a document and to present to the public and to the judge.
Well, will the interveners have it before that? Because they're going to be part of that hearing.
Well, Roger, how it's interpreted now, we will have our document, which is a compilation and answering and statements related to the comments that we received. The interveners, we are not taking their comments and including them with our document.
That's not what I asked. What I asked was, will they have your responses to, because you had your hearing before anybody else, and that was supposed to be an opportunity for the public to respond to whatever answers you gave at the various public meetings. And now it sounds like the public's not going to be able to see your responses to that first public meeting until it's done with the court. And that doesn't seem.
No, Roger, what I said is we are generating a document to be made available to the public by the October 22nd meeting with the judge. We want to have that document available to give to him too. If, like I said, we're not waiting for the judge to do anything. We will generate that document and make it public as soon as that is completed. Our goal, our date that we're working toward is the next meeting, if I am correct, remembering is October 22nd, when everybody again has a status meeting with the current judge.
I'm sure people will have comments on this at the discussion point at the end of this. Let's go on to item C.
The update on the trend analysis is we're still completing that, Roger. We, as far as I've said before, the trend analysis will be utilized to modify and implement sampling plans once the new CJ is approved. We have not. It has been put on the back burner a little bit related to the current work we're trying to do with the comments. That is in the short term here is kind of delayed that, but it isn't a document that we are still working on it. We will generate a document that will be posted as soon as we can. I believe I've indicated at the last meeting, I was asked specifically when, a date, and I had indicated that, well, you know, I can identify that sometime, you know, we will have some document by the first quarter of 2021, but I did not want to. I wanted to manage expectations and not identify sometime before the end of the year as a date. Again, we are planning to use this as a tool for implementing the new sampling plans related to the CJ. The sampling plans are identified in the CJ, draft CJ, and are required to be submitted once the CJ is approved. So we aren't there yet, so we have not finalized our trend analysis review.
Can I ask something? What if the CJ is rejected rejected, how will we still be able to see the trend analysis? And
We're gonna utilize the trend analysis, you know, in that scenario, if it's rejected. There are current, you know, the current CJ is still in place. The current CJ still has sampling plans. They have, you know, 3 sampling plans: eastern area, western area, and Little Lake area. We plan to utilize trend analysis to, if you want to say, update those, review those that are currently being used in, you know, the sampling that's ongoing at the Gelman site. But the first, you know, our goal was to have them to be able to update the sampling plans, have that trend analysis be able to update the sampling plans under the new CJ, and with new wells, with all the new wells that would be part of that. And so we're still planning on utilizing it to, if the CJ is rejected, to modify or look at the current sampling plans and this current sampling of the, you know, the wells in those plans.
Because for like the past couple years, it's just been we're waiting and waiting. And
well,
I mean, it's not like everything should stop or slow down, I feel, because of legal stuff. We need to get on them.
Yeah, the dioxin's not slowing down. Okay, how about?
I mean, I don't do this, you know, there are staff limitations too. I'm one of them. So
I have a question. When I'm listening to this, I don't know. You know, people are saying, well, why aren't we getting the trend analysis sooner? I have concerns too, because the CJ has been negotiated for a long time. I don't know that it will be approved. It's highly likely that it might not. So I'm wondering, how much time does it take to create a trend analysis, and what percentage of your time, Dan, do you spend on Gelman issues, say, in a month, or how many hours? Just so I can understand better.
I can't really give a time frame. What we're talking about is we asked Gelman to generate a trend analysis work plan. How could we evaluate statistically the sampling of the existing monitoring wells? They developed that document and we posted it on the webpage. It was in a quarterly report last year. And then what people are asking for and what we're going to be doing is evaluating their presentation or proposed statistical analysis. So that is what we're talking about, that document. As far as how long that takes, it's been going in and out with things that have come up. Basically, it is we're getting, you know, we have myself and Kevin Lund have been looking at that document, or that trend analysis, and kind of putting together some notes to take to a EGLE technical team to see how we want to, as EGLE, comment on that, and are those statistical evaluations valid. I can tell you that the evaluations that Gelman used are methods are applicable, are used in the analysis of environmental samples. So they're not, that's the first evaluation, but specifically of how they are lumping and how much data, historic data, is being used for each of the wells statistically. We haven't gone through the detailed evaluation of that. As far as I'm pretty much the single person kind of day-to-day person for the Gelman site. I typically, my time is probably in the order of 80 to 90% is related to Gelman. There are many activities that go on in a month related to Gelman. I maintain and post the webpage, all the data that I get from Gelman. I try to get it on that over these last years, and you know, I'm part of the team too that is evaluating and negotiating the confidential negotiations. So I was on that team too. So, but I want to stress tonight that I have other sites too. And so although I typically in a typical month, let's say 80% or 90%, certain times I have sites that come up that require my my time because those sites have documents that need to be reviewed within a time frame related to our environmental law. Underground storage tank sites and other sites, hazardous other weight or what I call 201 sites, like Gelman is a 201. That's the environmental law that regulates sites like Gelman that require evaluation within a time frame, or as a regulator, we have to finish it within a time frame. And that has come up over the, I suddenly have a handful of sites in, for example, my Hillsdale County, suddenly that I have to get done, or it's approved without a review. And if it's wrong, it's approved. So, and I'm the key person on the Gelman site day to day. Kevin Lund is the geologist that assists me, but again, he has other responsibilities too. And then the AG is Brian Nagel, who's assigned to this case. So it's not a, although I spend a lot of time on Gelman, it's not 100% of my time.
Well, thank you for answering that question. I mean, one of the reasons I'm asking is because when we ask questions like when can we expect that, or when, like why, it's like you have to wait. We have to wait 3 more months for that information. We're trying to make decisions now. I know I have personally relied heavily on CARD, and so I want them to have the best information available to do the analysis. I am not a geologist or whatever, right? Like I have a master's degree in resource policy, but that I have to rely on data and information to make my decisions as a public official. And it's frustrating to me. I've been coming to these meetings for a while that it's always going to be next quarters. It seems like for so much of the stuff. And I know this sounds cranky. I am cranky because I have been working way too many hours, especially because we're trying to deal with Gelman. And I really need that good information, and I need CARD to have it too. So thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it.
I want, as I think most people know, or if you don't know, I will tell you, one of my day-to-day times is spent is getting data, now granted the raw data from Gelman, and posting it on our website so it is available pretty quickly. Gelman information is out on out to the public pretty out to the public pretty quickly. So but that's where we are right now. Again, the next one is the status has been on the agenda, the status of the new compliance wells in Scioto Township development. Well, the new wells are part of the modified CJ. There are new wells being proposed for the western area, so they are identified. So again, if the CJ is approved, those wells will be installed. If it is not approved, then we will evaluate. We will evaluate under the old CJ, the current one, the current valid CJ, the need for replacement of compliance monitoring wells that were properly abandoned, approved and properly abandoned last year. So those wells are part of the, like I said, part of the draft CJ, and they are identified in that document where they are proposed to be installed.
Okay, item E.
Yeah, item E, I have generated a document mainly related to Jenny Kahn's request of some specific wells. I have that in a draft form to be reviewed by our Gelman team. I'm going to be sending that to her, I believe, here within the next 2 weeks. And it's some answers to some of her questions, and starts the list of wells that people have been questioning haven't been sampled in a while. Again, what I want to just summarize tonight, what I'm finding out, and I will reference that to her to the information I'm giving her, and I will make it available to everybody. Jenny had the specific questions, and so I'm going to refer back to her and copy everybody to the CARD group, like I do with data. And a lot of the questions, a lot of the reasons why wells aren't being sampled is related to what is approved under the 2011 current sampling plans that were approved in 2011 by DEQ for the eastern area, western area, and Little Lake area. A lot of the wells that had some questions, especially in Jenny's first, the wells she has identified, were identified as were approved for no more sampling under those monitoring plans. So
in 2011.
I need to, yes, the plans are dated over the year, started in the spring, May through, let's say, December 2011. And again, there are 3 plans: eastern area, western area, and Little Lake area.
Yeah.
There are tables in there that have identified current and new approved monitoring times, how often. And a lot of those wells that the initial questions are identified as no longer sampled. So
yeah, I think the question we all have is why? What's the criteria that's used to say we don't need to sample wells anymore?
Okay, I don't have, I'm not going to go into an answer tonight, but I can, again, I can give you, it's going to be part of that document, at least some preliminary information on why.
I think item C, uppercase C, overlaps with this same item. And I guess, we really should have some definitive criteria for why wells get sampled. I'm really concerned about termination criteria for wells. If X number of months it's non-detect, then you don't ever have to sample it again. I'm really concerned about that because, as I've seen with the mashups I've done, when purging stops, some of these wells go back up even after years of non-detect. And I'll get into that in my presentation a little bit, but just want you to know. So item C is really the same as AE, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
so
related to the that haven't been sampled in a while.
Yeah. So before we go to the City of Ann Arbor testing wet basements, because I don't think that's really not your bailiwick, is it, Dan?
Well, that's not my topic.
Yeah. So before we get into that, does anybody have any discussion questions about the old business that Dan did cover that we haven't already asked about? Just unmute.
Hi, this is Shauna Milky. Yeah, Dan, I thought at the September 14th public meeting, we talked about EGLE possibly including public comments from the other interveners. And I think I heard you say that EGLE decided not to do that. Is that true?
Well, that's the current situation right now. Is I do not believe, well, my impression, we did not promise we would take a look at that, I think is what was presented. And right now we are compiling the comments that we received through our comment period. We are not including right now, although most of the comments that I've seen from the interveners, that I have witnessed are the same comments, or the same questions, same statements. So, although we don't identify it as a comment received on this date, our comments and questions questions and our answers and comments will cover a majority of the comments received during the interveners comment period too. We are not specifically getting a list from them right now.
Mm-hmm. Could you explain a little more about the October 22nd meeting? Like, who is supposed to be there, and is the public allowed, and what decision is going to be made on October 22nd?
I can only, that's really an AG question. I mean, my understanding is that meeting is an update meeting with the judge. That'll be the, as other meetings have been with the judge, it will be the mainly the legal portions, people for the different entities will be meeting with the judge to give him an update on what the current situation, where we are, you know, as far as mutually agreeing to approve the CJ or not approve the CJ, or kind of an update with him. And public, as I understand it, is not invited. It's an update meeting with the judge and the legal entities from all the interveners, Gelman and EGLE.
So this is not the day where the consent judgment would either be entered or not. That's not October 22nd.
I don't have, I can't answer that, whether, you know, whether if everybody would goes in, you know, whether that is a date that the judge was saying a yes or no date. But it's an update with him to see the status, whether that moves on to agreeing or not agreeing with the CJ. I can't answer.
Could the commissioners or city council people address that too? Thanks. October 22nd, is that the day when the consent judgment would be entered or not?
I can respond to that if no one minds. The October 22nd meeting with the judge is a status conference. The judge has already expressed his desire to hold a hearing of his own, which means that on that day, he'll probably map out a strategy for hearing from the public. So EGLE has had their public hearing, and each of the interveners have had a public hearing, but the judge wants one of his own after he learns what each intervener has decided about going forward on the consent judgment.
Okay, thank you. I'm finished with my questions. Thank you.
Roger, Joshua has his hand up.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think Jack actually answered that the way I was going to answer that question. So I think it's taken care of. You know, as far as incorporating all the intervener comments into EGLE's comments, that was not the intent. In the beginning, we were very clear in our notice where the department would take its public comments. So there was never an intention to mesh those. So again, the hearing is for the judge to see where every, you know, entity stands and the comments they received and our responses to those comments. And then again, proceed with the process. I don't believe that any decision would be made at that point. It's just, here's the public comment each party received at that time, and then the judge can map out his strategy going forward.
I would like to make a comment about the stopping of sampling of wells. I think that that's a pretty serious issue that we need to make sure we don't have, you know, a huge number of wells here. And like Roger said, some of these wells will go up and down, and it would be inappropriate or ill-advised to stop sampling just because it went down in, you know, a certain period of time. So I hope we don't abandon wells just because we can do it. You know, we should make sure they're totally, you know, unusable or whatever.
So this is Jenny from Washtenaw County. I just want to clarify that the wells I inquired about with Dan are wells that haven't been sampled in like 5 years to 10 years. So this isn't wells proposed to be stopped now. And all of these happened before Dan even started working at EGLE. So, so just so you know why like Dan didn't have it like right in the back of his head is why we stopped them. So just wanted to clarify.
All right, thank you.
Well, I had pointed out
Yes.
that there were certain wells that were not sampled in the last 2 or 3 years that really should be. So I think that's a question that needs to be answered still.
Yeah, we're having trouble getting shallow groundwater wells on the west side of the city. And that's,
that too.
you know, a bone we're trying to get a handle on. And with relatively high parts per billion coming in at West Park near the surface, it's a real concern for the west side of Ann Arbor with a lot of groundwater issues, wet basements, damp basements. So that's kind of a side issue related to wells. Thanks.
Anybody else have any comments? I'm gonna try to share my screen again. Okay, so under old business, item C, item B, City of Ann Arbor wet basement testing. Is anybody on here to give an update on that?
I can give an update, Roger. So we sent out the surveys to the folks in that area, asked them to respond. They had several ways to respond to us. We've gotten about 80 to 90 responses of about 270 that were sent out. And of those, there's approximately 20 that are have wet basements, have sumps that we can sample from. And those, we're just waiting on an event that produces flooding.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
So yeah, are any of these wells or any of these basements or lower areas to be evaluated east of 7th Street? Because that's where we found the near surface contamination.
Sorry, I had muted myself. Yes, I believe there are a number of homes east of 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the preponderance of exposure is going to be from the data we have, which isn't tremendous, but really looks like it's east of 7th. There was some tests upstream of 7th, and those were negative, but the West Park near 7th was up to 22 part per billion. So it looks like the exposure will be downhill as the water-bearing layers are exposed, falling away to the river, is what it seems. So, we have Paul zone geological maps that would indicate that. Thanks.
Yeah, this is the area that from a couple of Gelman's own studies in 2006 and 7 that show where the groundwater is close enough to basements that it could cause some wet basement issues. And of course, these little pockets that go up along the drains here that even sooner. And as we've been pointing out, and this is more for the new people who are just on board here so they can get up to date. If I turn on the wells layer and we zoom in on the only shallow well that's close to those areas is MW 82S. And this is through 2019. It was 360 parts per billion heading to the same area down here where the groundwater is close to the surface. So we already know there's several hundred parts per billion heading that way. And what Vince referred to earlier is still an issue, that we need permanent shallow groundwater testing to give a heads up before it gets to people's homes in this area. And especially with the new criteria of, that this whole area here was let go at 2,800 parts per billion. And that with the new criteria that's not quite in place yet, it's going to be 280. And then the exposure limits fluctuated between 29 and 1900. And Bob Bailey, his analysis says maybe it should be closer to 100 parts per billion if you have wet basements. So this is still an open question, and we still don't have those shallow groundwater testing in this whole area, permanent shallow groundwater testing to have a heads up. Do you have anything else, Patty?
I do not.
I guess I have a question. When the city proposed these shallow basement tests, did anybody who's working with the city contact the CARD group to get suggestions or advice?
Is that a question for me, Vince?
You may be the most reliable source at this point. I don't know.
Not to my knowledge, I guess.
Not to your knowledge. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to say that, CARD is a really powerful resource in this. And we have a lot of knowledge because we've been working on this for decades now. And I suggested that when this was brought up as a potential study. So I just want to reiterate that CARD should be connected to whatever projects are going on, if it looks like CARD may have some help in narrowing down the most effective places to look. So thank you.
Yeah, we can't rely on local government's budgets to produce enough resources to do the right thing, and a lot of the CARD volunteers work really cheap, like zero cost. Should take advantage of it. That's one of the features of sites that have the best cleanup criteria, is if the citizens are involved and stay involved and are welcome to be involved. When citizens are pushed away, then the end result isn't as good as when citizens are involved. And that's why the EPA makes a point of keeping citizens involved. All right, so we're finally done with the first 15 minutes and 1 hour here. So let's go to EGLE updates, Dan. See if we can keep it, short.
Okay. The NPDS permit, I've checked in with the water resources. It is still in their undergoing internal review. It has not been sent out. What we are talking about is the renewal of the 2016 NPDES permit. That permit expired on last October, and they submitted a renewal application, and that's still an internal review. Once that's done, it will be sent to Gelman, and then after discussion with Gelman, Water Resources discuss it with Gelman, it will be made available to the public, and that they have promised that, they have promised that there will be a public meeting on that NPDES renewal. So that is status. It's still an internal review with Water Resources Division.
And is that really
I
waiting
can't-
for the CJ results?
Is it waiting for the CJ results? No,
Yeah,
I
is
don't.
that waiting for the up-down vote on the CJ, proposed CJ?
No, I don't.
So
I
it
don't
could have
have
been,
any
it could have been in
knowledge of that.
process all along.
Right. I mean, it's a separate entity in the sense that they have a current CJ.
Yeah.
That is relies on an NPDES permit, and that permit expired, but under the process, Michigan law, that the existing NPDES permit is continued until the renewal is approved or rejected, and then and that's the process. That's where we are right now. So it's
I noticed
really
that
not
the
related to the CJ.
I noticed that the EGLE staff who had come to some of the card meetings in the past relating to that haven't been to recent card meetings. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
But I check with them every month before card.
Yeah.
I check in, make sure I speak directly to the permits people, and just to make sure if I can present anything new, any new additional information.
Yeah. Tell them we miss them. We like to keep them informed. There might be staff changes there. We don't know. Go ahead. Go item B.
Yeah, well, can I ask a question before we move to item B?
Yes.
Sure.
I think both the proposed CJ amendment and the settlement agreements with the interveners ask us to buy into the NPDES permit levels at similar to the 2014 permit. They're not really going to pay any attention to our opinion. They're going to just apply the law and the standards that they typically apply without regard to what interveners express. Isn't that right?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, please.
The process is as part of the evaluation for an new NPDES permit or renewal. I mean, they ask for comments. They'll have a public meeting, give you a avenue to ask direct questions to the permit writer. So that process involves the stakeholders, local stakeholders.
I think what Jack is saying.
I don't.
Excuse me, Dan. I think what Jack is saying. Excuse me, Dan. I think what Jack is saying is that these side agreements that came out of the settlement ask that if they agree to this consent judgment, they also agree to adhering to the old discharge limits, even if there's better.
I think that Dan was actually.
Like
I think
the
Dan was
discharge to the
actually
first
answering
sister
my
lake would be that the same old instead of the best available technology. Right, Jack?
But I think that Dan was answering my direct question. And my direct question was, are they going to pay attention to our opinion? And because those permits are based on the input that they get from interested parties, especially communities, they would. And I would just point out that that's a significant, dangerous aspect of these agreements. Thank you so much, Dan.
Joshua had his hand up.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on the NPS decision thing. As far as public comment, and EGLE is not part of these side agreements, so we're not privy to them, or we might be privy to them, but we're not bound to them. And EGLE has to look at the NPS discharge and the comments it's received regarding their lawfulness with our regulations. So while we appreciate public comment and listen to public comment, we still have to uphold the limits of our authority in the law. I mean, so I just want to make sure that's clear, that when you're giving public comment, should always consider where something may not be in compliance with the law in order to elicit the most change in the decision that you hope for. You know, we can't make Gilman clean up, you know, the groundwater to non-detect because our groundwater limit is 7.2. So, I mean, that's just one example. You can ask that all day long. We can't enforce that. So things like that. That's a you know, extreme example. That's just what I'm saying.
Do you guys know, either Dan or Joshua, if there was an NPDES permit ever denied for first or second or third Sister Lake, for that matter?
I don't
I don't
have
know.
direct information.
That was one of the questions I've been asking for a month, over a month.
I'll take that back and check on that. I don't have, again, that's Water Resources Division. My recent questions were related to the status of the NPDES renewal.
And Joshua, just to clarify, the discharge limit isn't directly related to the cleanup standard.
Well, it's related to what is the best available technology in order to achieve the standard.
Yes, and as we've pointed out, because we won that part of the contested case back in the early 2000s, the administrative law judge said the discharge limit should be 5 parts per billion or less. And that never got put into effect because of the DEQ director under Governor Engler.
Okay.
And we know that the company can do non-detect because they did that for years at Evergreen and at the core, right up until the end, until they switched to the ozone oxidation method.
Nope, I understand.
Okay, let's go on. Where are we at here? Homeowner well sampling results, is that the same thing? No.
I can't give it last month. I can give it, or Jenny, if you're on.
Sure. Yes.
Go ahead.
So we collected 24 more samples because some of the residential wells are sampled twice per year. So they ended up kind of close together because of COVID postponing their first sampling event this year. But we collected 24 more samples, primarily along Elizabeth Road. And then we also went and got some. We couldn't get the first sampling event. We had no new detections in 2020 or for this fiscal year sampling. And overall, we had detections in 4 wells, the highest being 2 parts per billion.
And just so everybody
I
else
have
knows, that's still at the old sampling method, not the EPA latest 522 method that can detect less than 1 part per billion, right?
Yes, the method that's used is 82. The actual lab method is 8260 SIM, and that's what our environmental lab and drinking water lab uses for dioxane, 1,4-dioxane. So the detection reporting limit is 1 part per billion.
So what is the shutoff part per billion for a drinking water well in Scioview or Ann Arbor Township?
7.2 parts per billion.
Why is it 7.2? Because when it was 3 cleanup, when 3 was the cleanup standard, when wells got to 2, they would provide replacement water and be annexed to the city and stuff like that. Why is it 7.2 and not
The current
2 or 4?
drinking water cleanup criteria is 7.2 parts per billion. However, the proposed fourth amended consent judgment does have a provision to provide water, I believe at 3 or 3.5 parts per billion. But that is not required anywhere. So it's considered safe for consumption in all uses up to 7.2.
Yeah, so that number has kind of fluctuated a bit, but I'll just remind people that the city of Ann Arbor shut down the northwest supply well with 1 or 2 or 3 part per billion, which would have been much lower once it got to the supply system. So just to keep.
And that's when the cleanup standard was 85. All right. So we got some homeowner wells sampled, and those will continue on. And it's going to be within 1,000 feet of where it was detected before.
That's the distance that we sample existing residential wells. We try to sample all wells that are within 1,000 feet of the detected concentrations of 1,4-dioxane in residential wells. So it's kind of a buffer that's utilized to be able to draw a line, if you want to say that outside that area, we have gotten requests to sample, but we have to cut it off, and we give a 1,000-foot buffer. And
I wonder how much. I wonder how much bigger the area would be if you use the method 522 and you're starting to come up with 0.7 and 0.6 parts per billion, and you went 1,000 feet up from that. I wonder how much larger the area would be.
I can't answer that, Roger.
No, nor
Again,
can,
I want to,
because we don't sample it. We don't use the 522 method. So
one of the things, again, repeating, and Josh even said it, our criteria, our law is 7.2. Groundwater can be utilized as drinking water with a concentration of 7.2 parts per.
yeah, but that's
1,4-dioxane.
Well,
we don't want to get
can I raise
locked
my
into
hand?
7.2 if someday in the future we're going to be like New York and get down to 1 part per billion. We don't want to get locked into 7.2 arbitrarily.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, so I just, with when you're talking about criteria and methods, you also have to remember there are promulgated target detection limits. And Dan, do you happen to know offhand what the target detection limit is for 1,4? It's 1 part per billion. So under the law, unless we re-promulgate those criteria with new detection limits, we can't require a different method that requires a lower detection limit either. So the lawful criteria is 7.2, and a lawful lowest detection limit that they have to go to under the law is 1. Those are the regulations.
Yeah, we wouldn't want
can't
anybody to go
change
better
our
than
mind
the
right
law,
now.
because that would be, wasteful.
We can't require it. We don't have the authority to do it.
They don't have the
That's what I'm telling you.
They don't have the authority, but
We don't have
sometimes
the
you
authority.
end up getting a
We don't have the
good corporate
authority.
citizen who will do that. The city does that.
Yep.
The city detects less than 1 part per billion.
We can't require going to it.
And wells and water was provided to homeowners below the 7.2 in the recent past.
Yeah, and right. And again, in the renegotiated consent decree, we did negotiate that buffer that if they hit around 3.5, the
Right.
Gelman would do that also. We were going to wait for it to be at 7.2
Okay.
and cause the
Just so people know that.
Yep.
All right, well, let's go on.
Not so hard and fast.
Surface water testing in September. Who's going to answer that?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I didn't get started to surface water sampling until yesterday. So I sampled yesterday and I'm sampling Wednesday, tomorrow. I just got postponed until that. I've collected so far all the surface water samples that I've identified in the past. I've done Allen Creek in West Park there. I've done Allen Creek at Chapin. Vince, I got your storm grade on 8 sampled yesterday.
Oh, great.
And then I got all the first, second, third sister lakes, Honey Creek, Dexter. I may be a little bit problematic. Honey Creek at Miller Road. Miller Road's you can't get, it's closed down, and I think it's closed down where it crosses Honey Creek. So I may not be able to get that one this time, Roger.
Actually, Dan.
So I'll take a look.
Dan, I'll tell you how to get there. You can go in from Dexter on Wagner Road. And then you can walk along
Dexter.
the road and get in where the creek goes under the,
I'll
because
take
that's
a
where
look at that.
you sample
I'm
it
just,
right
you know,
on
if I-
Wagner Road, right?
Yeah, where, well, where it crosses Miller.
Right. They're
Right.
putting in a roundabout there. I was just up there a day or two ago, and it's almost done. It'll
I'll
be done
take
by
it
the middle of the.
tomorrow. And I can get in there again. I have some help tomorrow that can do some trudging across the tundra
Yeah,
for me.
but you can go in
So-
from Dexter Road. Go in from Dexter Road and go north on Wagner, and you'll get there.
Alrighty.
So when do you think those values will come out?
Well, I just
Yeah.
turned the ones I sampled yesterday into the lab today, and they don't. I'm not anticipating any results back at a minimum of 10 working days, but really it's probably more realistic within the next month. And then I will turn the samples I collect tomorrow in on Thursday into the lab. So that's the status there. I wanted to identify with the homeowners' wells. I will post the results of this year's sampling here as soon as the final results are in and into the database, and I can print it out, and I'll post that as I do on the webpage. And I will post this surface water sampling results again. I will post the actual lab data sheets I received from the lab with the QA/QC that I requested in case someone wants to do a detailed analysis of a laboratory method QA/QC.
So it's been pretty dry. Did you see a lot of water on 8th Street and at West Park, Dan?
I was surprised.
Okay, good.
Didn't remember that when we did our sampling in last February when we were down doing the manhole on 8th. I just didn't remember the amount of flow or the noise from the water there. So, but I sampled the storm grate there. Vince, exactly where your picture shows.
Yep.
So.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And let me just say thank you, Jenny and Dan, and that's great. We have no new positive detections. I think that's great.
And again, we evaluate all the wells. Jenny and I evaluate the wells to be sampled each year. We have decided to do, kind of keep up with sampling them all last year, this year, and probably next year as we work through this CJ situation. And but if wells need to be added related to the detections and the buffer zone that we have identified that we're going to be utilizing, they will be added.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So item D, did we cover that enough in the previous section?
Again, like I said, just a summary. We're going to have our comments summary prepared to be for the meeting with the judge on the 22nd. So as soon as it is prepared, I will post it. If it's before the 22nd, then I'll post it. But it will be available for Brian to take with him on the 22nd, and we'll post as soon as we can.
Okay. Any discussion on the EGLE updates by anybody? Okay. This is my turn. So the first item I see here is the proposed fourth consent judgment proposal settlement. There's a lot of information that we don't have. We have no idea what the justifications were for some of these proposals in the consent judgment. We don't have data to go with it. And it's sad because it's ironic that the process has actually slowed down some of the things that CARD and EGLE were working on. Like Dan hasn't had time to work on what we discussed last month because of the settlement being released, and now he has to review the comments and things like that. So I suggest that this whole consent judgment settlement process has been quite unproductive and hasn't resulted in an acceptable solution that's going to keep our water safe for several generations. Beth, did we want to talk about the having a resolution from CARD? Is that later in the thing here? Oh, that's
yeah,
okay, never mind. We'll get to that in a minute.
You should save time for that.
Yeah, we
yeah,
definitely
you
will.
could do it now, Roger.
I'm sorry?
And you can do it anytime you want. I put the link in there for everyone to see, but I guess I should probably mail it separate. And I mean, we need to have discussion about how we're gonna do an electronic vote in a week if.
Well, I can bring this
I'll
up.
put the link.
I can just run through it.
I can put the link in the chat. So I just did that.
So this is what we have as a draft. And a lot of these whereases were taken from other entities' resolutions. And so the idea is that we're going to tweak this some and then send it out to all voting members of CARD. And to be a voting member, according to the bylaws, you have to have been at 3 of the last 5 meetings. And
which includes this.
What were you saying, Beth? Including this?
That also includes, yeah.
Right. And I had to adjust the formula in our attendance sheet because there were a couple of meetings that were postponed. And so, those were nulls. And so it's really 3 out of the last 7 because those 2 are taken out. So you'll be getting an opportunity to vote on this. We'll send out once we finalize this as a group. So basically, do we need to read through this or do one by one? What do you think, Beth?
I don't think so. I think maybe we should publish it for everyone. And, if people wanted to change any words, or we could have comment period for, a few days or whatever you want to recommend. And then once it's finalized, I think Jenny said it's 1 week later we could take the vote. And she wasn't sure if staff could vote and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I guess it's mainly a citizen vote then if staff can't vote, or I don't know how that works.
I likely qualify. I wonder if I should not vote, perhaps.
Well, I think something in the bylaws says that 1 person per government entity can vote. I think that was part of the bylaw,
All right.
as I recall.
We'll thumb wrestle, Jack.
Yeah.
I'm going to concede my vote to Jeff because I implicitly trust Jeff's vote.
Thank you.
He's a good voter.
Yeah, me too.
So this vote has to be.
Oh, thanks, Kathy. See you down there.
This vote has to be done before certain council people and commissioners leave their current terms, before November.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Can I speak to that point, Roger?
Go ahead.
You've probably read in the Ann Arbor news blog thingy, MLive, that the mayor is proposing that we conditionally accept the 4th amended CJ, which I don't know that is an actual possibility. But if either we reject it or we conditionally accept it, I think that the issue will bleed over into the next council. I don't think that we conclude with any finality these issues with this council, and I'm sorry that that's true.
Yeah, that's really sad after all the work you guys put in. And how do we get the new?
This council can't vote on this.
We will vote on it, but if we turn it down, best case scenario, it goes back to the bargaining table. They give up a couple of little items and it comes back to the new council. And although they're all great progressives, and I'm sure they've been politically active in the community, I don't know that they are deeply aware of the issues here.
They never attended a card meeting, so.
All that was sarcastic.
Yeah, no.
Roger, can I say something?
Sure.
Can you hear me? As the SIO representative on card, any vote I cast our board would need to see the resolution and vote on that before I vote on their behalf. So just consider that in the timing here. We need to kind of move this along.
Yeah, some votes we may miss out on, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe not.
I can always vote as an individual and not represent them. And that's fine too. But I'm just saying, if you want more people and groups involved, we need more lead time.
The more the better.
We all needed more lead time. We weren't given.
I know. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, we could vote on this right now and modify it and then vote again. But what's the point?
Our vote won't count this time by the bylaws.
Right. She has to have, if she's going to vote for the representing SIO.
So it'll be a majority vote on this would be the decision. Straight majority.
Are you talking to me?
To anyone in the card group that I think it would be a majority vote to pass it.
Depends on what was in the bylaws. I believe so. I believe it was a straight majority, but you need to check that out.
I think so too.
Kathy had her hand raised.
I have two questions. One is regarding a whereas clause about 8 or 9 down where it says, whereas treated water would be discharged into First Sister Lake. Do we want to elaborate on what the treated water is? Because one could assume treated water is drinking water standard, and we know it isn't. So I think we should define what treated water means unless we did someplace else.
Made a note.
Maybe we should fix that now.
Okay, because isn't that one of the problems? Yeah. I mean, it's the volume of water, but it's also the fact that it's not pristine water like the water in the Sister Lake. And my other question is on, I believe, the last resolve clause regarding the EPA. I don't see asking the governor to petition the EPA as an alternative to the 4th consent judgment or further work on consent judgments. I see petitioning the EPA as a strategic long-term strategy, somewhat independent from the consent judgment process.
That's a good
point. And so I think, yeah, I would like to get that resolved before the new council is seated. So and we agreed previously in talking to Congresswoman Debbie Dingell that we would try to all of the elected groups and interveners would work together. But we're running out of time. And I think we need to take action there, because the public is going to be very, very disappointed if we simply vote down the consent judgment and don't take any other action.
I agree. So should we add and petition the governor?
Well, we could, but I don't know exactly how to coordinate. Maybe cards our local government officials to, to immediately jointly pursue a petition. But isn't it asking the governor to petition?
Well, US EPA will go to the governor and ask if she supports it, just like they did with Schneider. And Schneider did not. Schneider did not support it. So he didn't. He wasn't
there was already a petition by the three entities at that point. Do we have to have the petition comes first and then the governor signs?
I don't know. We could put it in there.
So the posture of the issue right now is whether or not the interveners will approach the governor and ask her to seek EPA intervention.
I think the governor, this is Jason here. Okay. I think the governor needs the interveners all together to request EPA. My understanding is that she wants a clear message from the community, as in all of us, about whether we want the EPA or not, because we do have to petition I think we petition the EPA, as Kathy was talking about, but we also ask the governor to petition the EPA. So I think this language kind of covers it. It's fine. I don't think anybody's gonna, peel up, tear apart the terminology there and saying, no, we actually have to petition the governor. I think the language.
You haven't watched the city council meeting.
Good point. City council
and thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have a process of cooperation.
So can you suggest language?
Well, I don't know if it belongs in the language, but we do need a process to get all of the interveners either to reach agreement or to make a statement that they can agree.
This resolution will be a quiver in your bag that you can pull out and say, Sierra Club rejects it, Scioto Township rejects it, Ann Arbor Township rejects it. I mean, it starts to add up after you get like the sixth or seventh entity.
The Environmental Commission. Did you see her? It
so
was awesome.
I think we need to push something forward to join the effort. And I think it's not sure whether it will succeed, but I think CARD has some standing.
Okay.
So to be clear, those entities, Ann Arbor Township, the Sierra Club, and the Environmental Commission have expressed their desire that we reject the CJ. They so they're urging us to do that. And if you go and look at their resolutions, perhaps that will help you form your
That's what this one started as, Ann Arbor Township resolution.
There may be one that we have to add into this because it was recent.
And as always, I am not telling you what conclusion to come to, but if you come to a particular conclusion, you should tell us the reasons why. So for instance, if you were to ask us to oppose the consent judgment, you might mention the 500 parts per billion standard and the various things, noting that some activists or some involved members have identified just the dumping of contaminated water into the lake as being the make or break issue. I don't think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
I think
that is definitely not the biggest issue. It makes no sense to pollute a pristine lake, but resolving that issue doesn't make this a good agreement necessarily. It just absolutely not.
It just removed one of the many reasons, and so you really want to look at the 6 biggest reasons and state them clearly for us.
Jack, I
But I'm
just wanted to jump in to add here to what you're saying. I think that's been identified as one of several big issues. My understanding for Roger and others working on this resolution, I think the resolution is fine. I think we need that guidance or that input from everybody. I think it has been helpful so far. But I think we need to be
Sorry.
in the. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Breaking up a little.
No.
Okay, hold on here.
There you go.
There we go. If I turn off my video, it tends to work better here. My understanding is the judge wants us to be a little bit clear in saying what we're unsatisfied with in a consent judgment, rather than just saying yes or, well, I guess no. That's what the input I've heard from our county attorney, basically saying, if you guys are going to vote no, you need to be clear as to what you're unsatisfied with, so that we can relay that to the judge, because the judge potentially could just issue an order, at least according to what I've been told, to sort of push Gelman to give on a few things. My understanding from card members here is that you're just not supportive of the consent judgment.
Well, there's a lot of problems with it that we really need to enumerate, more than we already have. We have already done that, like at the Scioview Township meeting, where Dan Bicknell talked for 30 minutes and I talked for 30 minutes, and we outlined some of the ones
And
at that time.
Going to articulate
and,
what we're
and also
unsatisfied
like if we're talking about, that, oh, well, as long as it doesn't go in the first sister lake, it's great, that article. There's so many other issues with like piping it away. It's already been treated. It doesn't have to go to the main plant. Why would we spend almost $1 million on a pipeline for a temporary well? It's a temporary extraction well. So, there's lots of other things that need to be, it needs to be evaluated again and again and read again and again, because there's just so many other problems with, like, you can't just say, well, we're going to pipeline it instead, because then you're putting all that more dioxane and bromate into Honey Creek, and it doesn't even need to go to the main treatment plant. They treat it on that shipping container. So there's the mayor's whole thing of yes, if it falls apart. But James Damore has had his hand raised too and I always just interrupt.
That's okay. Thanks,
Sorry,
Beth.
I have to drop off here. I have to drop off the call, but Beth, one comment on that. I didn't realize the newspaper would pick that up. I think that was when I sent an email back there, it was saying, I agree, and I have other concerns. I don't know how that made it to the newspaper necessarily for an article, but my hope was just to relay to people, I agree with you on this particular concern, in case that was something that was concerning to anyone.
I gotta jump off. I have to jump off real quick here. Just in terms of very quickly, I don't know if we're going to vote tonight on this. Jack mentioned something about the turnover on council. I would really educate your incoming colleagues that this is an important issue. And I know that Kathy and Jeff will be continuing on council, but Ann and Jack won't be. I would like to see the newer members show up to card meetings and participate in the process. This is just as important, and it should be ideally a nonpartisan issue per se. I just wanted to convey that. So good luck, and thanks everyone.
This will be a mail-in vote, email vote.
Kathy?
Could we also have a whereas clause that references at least one of the studies showing that a Superfund site does not decrease property values in the area?
It's a good idea.
Because that's another thing that I'm hearing, especially in Ann Arbor, is a Superfund site would decrease property values, and it would also be a stigma for the University of Michigan. And I think that's all outdated and simply needs to be stated in the resolution one more time so people can reference it.
Good point. Kathy Knoll.
Do you have those?
Yes, I had a question, a clarification question for Jason Morgan. Jason, can you hear me?
Jason had to jump off, so he's having
Sorry. Okay, well, I'll just repeat it for everyone else. What I heard him say was that, I'm having trouble with my lighting here, what he would like the various parties to do is list their top 5 or 6 concerns with the current CJ. And I just want to point out that is a little bit different from what the interveners have been told. We had been directed by our council that this vote was a thumbs up or thumbs down vote on the current CJ and the current settlement documents. So that's a change. And I wanted more clarification on that. But I'll just go with what I've been told so far, which is the vote is a thumbs up or thumbs down vote on the currently existing documents that we have.
I just want to interject my agreement with what Kathy said.
Yeah, I agree. Jim?
I just want to say the first whereas, I think there's a typo there. It says fourth and then fourth again.
See if I can get to that here.
Did you see that?
Getting there. Oh, yeah. Actually, I thought I changed this once. Maybe this is a different copy of it.
Yeah, what the updated one doesn't have that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe you need to refresh your screen.
Well, no, I took the link. This link probably isn't to the latest one. But we're gonna wordsmith this a little bit more anyway and get it out to people.
Okay.
One of the things that I want to make sure everybody understands is that when they say they're going to have a temporary purge well, temporary could mean 2 decades, 5 decades. There is no temporary 2-year purge going on here. That's fantasy. A lot of the problems with this consent judgment proposal is that the company was working under, what do we have in place now? We have a 200 gallon per minute pipeline from Evergreen. We have an extra treatment system that's setting in their storage area that uses ozone oxidation. They want to use the same old discharge limits, SPDS permit. They're not really giving up anything on this. In fact, when you add in the 200 gallons per minute, as Dan Bicknell pointed out, they're still only up around 650 gallons per minute purging, even if they have a pipeline back to the core. That's only half of what they're permitted. And there's no documentation that says that's enough to stop the plumes from spreading in the directions that are going to harm people. We really need a complete study of what is really needed before if you don't have the problem sufficiently defined and you just start throwing solutions out, it's pretty likely that the solution is not going to do the job if we haven't defined the problem sufficiently. And this is something we've been saying for years. And that's why we need to get a higher authority on that can demand that kind of analysis. You know, the local units in the state for 3+ years weren't able to do that. We're not even sure they were discussing that. And it's time to end this delay tactics by the company and get on with a proper cleanup. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take people's inputs on this. We'll share the final version and allow everybody to make comments on it. We'll review the comments. We'll put a time deadline on it that gives everybody a chance to weigh in the next few days. And then maybe by the weekend, we'll have a final version that we'll send out and have people vote on after they've had a chance to review it. Any discussion on that?
Jeff Hayner? Oh, Jeff has his hands up and his both hands.
Oh, just briefly, because you were referring to non-detected various methods, and just for yucks, I had reached out to some people at Trojan and asked about their various UV AOP systems, advanced oxidation, and boy, the guy was super interested in. And I said, yeah, if we have the eventuality that it ends up in our intakes, and I said we've had a few of those instances at almost below, almost with outside of the detection range. And he was very interested. And then when I referred him to the rest of the site information, then he said, I'm going to add this other guy in on our conversation here so he can talk to you more about it. And so, I've started down this path with these people as they thought they were going to sell me a treatment, part of our treatment train at water treatment plant. And it's just sort of a curious thing to see this company, taking an interest in the site. And they know they already sold us the one for our, 6-log cryptosporidium removal or whatever it was that the state mandated, a small version of their UV system. And so I just, more reports as events warrant, I guess. So I have to duck out for a few minutes. So thank everybody I want to thank everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, we know they can treat to non-detect. That's not an issue.
I did want to say that in Kathy's question about a thumbs up or a thumbs down, when I did the minutes, Brian Nagel told us a month ago at this meeting that it was that there's no more negotiating. It is either a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote. So if there's going to be some more negotiating, then that wasn't a truthful state. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys know, EGLE people? Is there still negotiating to be done if it's the right negotiating that they want to hear? Or
I think we should proceed as if it's going to be an up or down, because that's what we were told all along. And unless you're going to have negotiations about the negotiations, that's just going to delay it even more. I think, that it's clear that if we vote this down and get on with the next steps, we know what the companies thinks they can do. We know what they have to do in order to keep what they should be doing in order to give it more protective cleanup. And that's where the rub's going to be. And we got to do this in a more open fashion, because we can't be wasting 3 years every time we go into a negotiation settlement. That's right. That's exactly what the company wants. They want to, until they continue dawdling along and do the minimum amount. I think this company is at risk of hurting their own business with this kind of approach, because they have the technology to clean this up. Here's a site that's going to be here for decades that they could fine tune their technology. They could use it as a selling point. Look, we were able to clean up the largest dioxin contamination of its type in the country. And they're not even using this opportunity. So we need to convince them.
I wonder if Josh or Dan wanted to make a comment.
Sure. No, I mean, my understanding is with the AG's office that it's a thumbs up, a thumbs down. I've heard no discussion about continued negotiations. So, well, I'm just curious, the scientist in myself, I mean, treatment technology is one thing, but it's still pump and treat. So can you actually get it out of the ground is
Absolutely.
Is the real question.
Yeah.
Whether you can treat it when you get it out. Okay. But we saw, we see data with the curves of what you're capturing, and diminishing returns over time, and what you're capturing, maybe you can treat with the technology, but can you actually get it out of the ground? I've not been working on this site for 30 years. Much lost, but that's where my curiosity lies.
There's even examples on this site. On this site where it works. So we don't even have to go to another site like Bethpage, New York. We have examples on this site where it is possible.
Dan, you have a comment?
Again, I'm on what Josh had said. Yes, you can pump and treat, but I think if you're looking for a complete cleanup of the whole area of impact related with 1,4-dioxane related to Gelman, from the information that I have, and I believe even Dr. Lemke even alluded to some of this, that it would be very difficult. It has grown to such a large impact footprint that you're not going to get a complete aquifer restoration cleanup of all the area of dioxane impact.
What time frame are you looking at, Dan?
What time frame?
Yeah.
I'm not
How many
sure.
years? How many years can't you do this?
I don't understand your question, Roger.
I know you don't. How many years is it going to take to get a cleanup done?
Wasn't the one out in the East Coast projected at over 110 years or something like that?
We really don't have enough good information to project 110 years, 120 years, 300 years, but we do know that it is possible. And why would we give up? I mean, this is Ann Arbor, for crying out loud. You know, where's our leaders and best mantra? We can do this.
We have examples. We have examples where they have done cleanups. You know, Bethpage is being worked on pretty hard.
Yeah, but that's going to take a long time too, and it's even bigger.
Yeah, but they're not talking 100.
But and less parts per billion. Remember, you know, we have a little different situation here in that we can find these narrow channels of high concentrations and attack those. And the technology is getting better all the time. And if we have a cooperative partner in this with the company and their subsidiary like Trojan UV, we know we can do a much better job than what's been proposed in this weak settlement proposal. And that's really what it's we don't need to settle for this settlement. This is our future water supply. And you talk about the university being involved. Do you think people out east where they have cleanup standards of 0.35 and 1 are going to want to send their kids to University of Michigan, where they're not even proposing to clean up to 7.2. They're going to clean up to 280, maybe even higher, because there's a mixing zone being allowed. That's not going to fly. If this gets accepted, the University of Michigan is going to be in trouble.
Kathy's got a point too.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Thanks, Roger.
Yes, I have two. One is we have just this discussion and it wastes a lot of time about whether we're going to go after that last 1%. I don't think that's relevant right now because it just wastes a lot of time, and technology is going to change, but we should not settle and we should continue to move forward. The point I really want to make though is that MLive is very low on reporter time. And so when the vote is taken, we need to send a press release, a professional press release that Ryan Stanton or someone can just do a copy and paste and we control the message.
Good point.
And I think it's critical that we do that. And Rita's smiling.
You're so
I think
smart.
That was a volunteer. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it wasn't a volunteering. You got to wait till I retire. I'm just like.
I think that's the most important thing that this group can do after the vote is have a good press release and get it published.
Good point.
It's the way you do it. Yeah.
I'll run it by Harley.
Well, I could start it, but I think that I would work with Beth and Roger and Dan.
Good. Thanks.
unless someone else wants to do it. I don't have all the details.
We have a Scioto Township resident that's been part of Scioto Residents for Safe Water in the past, Harley Schwadron, who did all of our press releases in the early days, and he's still around.
Ooh.
Oh, good.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll run it by
Yeah.
him.
So we just need to have it ready to go as soon as the vote results are known.
Okay.
Ann, did you have something?
Yes, I think that's a great idea about a press release. And I was just wondering, like, what generally the press release would say. And then I also wanted to say we have one more meeting after that on November 5, if council wanted to bring an additional resolution of requesting Governor Whitmer do something or some other resolution at that point. So we got the press release and a resolution opportunity before we leave office.
Mhm.
Good point. Rita Mitchell.
But I'm not clear what the press release would say.
Well, I think the press release is going to, number one, reassure the public that we are taking action. And by voting against the consent judgment, that doesn't mean nothing is happening, because short term, we're still operating under consent judgment 3. Progress is being made. And again, I'm leaning towards the EPA as a long-term strategic goal. And maybe people know of other paths that we should be moving forward. But we don't want the story to be, after the interveners vote down the consent judgment, that, okay, we just wasted 3 years, nothing is happening, no one can agree on anything, this is a mess. We need to show that it's a path forward.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Rita?
that's good. There's certain things that they're in this proposal that the judge could order with a little tweaking that would be acceptable under the current consent judgment. Doesn't have to throw
okay.
in a new one. I think that's part of it. That the old consent judgment will be in place, and that this is the kind of thing that we can take while we're doing a parallel path with the EPA. Rita.
Perfect.
Rita Mitchell.
Yeah. Thanks, Roger. I just want to say, first off, as a latecomer to this group, I just am super impressed with the number of people participating tonight. And it makes me think that this is the time before the vote, at least of the Ann Arbor City Council, in my opinion, to put a lot of pressure from the community on the elected officials to make the right decision, to reject. I think that should come in a lot of ways, phone calls, emails, whatever, but I really think it should be pretty overwhelming. And I just wonder if that has been started or discussed.
Well, this resolution is one step in that direction.
And our county commissioners at Scioview.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
To all those groups that are in the interveners. I just think that, this is a time for everybody to reach out to their neighbors, to everyone who drinks water, to make a statement, however small that may be. A small statement out from anyone to their elected officials. I think if it becomes an overwhelming number, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's difficult in the COVID time, but this is how we've gotten as far as we have on this with the recalcitrant polluter. The citizens have always taken the lead on this. From the citizens.
One thing, we have email lists we can send out
information. And the card and the SRSW, the citizens have always had a lead on this, and a very important part of it, because we have research in this community. Look at the skills and the resources we have just on the screen here. Not many communities have this.
I agree, and I think it's super. And I just think that using the people right now, using their voices is that's what I'm encouraging. And so I don't know if there's anybody who has thought of putting together Vince's idea of using email lists to reach out, something that provides pressure.
That's I think why there was so much overwhelming opposition to the Sister Lake thing, is because that's what I've been doing. And
Yeah.
I know, and you're good at it, Beth.
This isn't gonna fly. This isn't, you guys have already, contaminated our wells 30 years ago, and you can't just keep shitting on us again and again, polluter. I'm sorry.
So I just want to interject at this point that I think we all have to acknowledge that Beth is a rock star here on this issue.
Totally.
She has been so effective in
I had help from all of you.
And she takes such an emotional beating because of the horrible human beings that also occupy our city. So, but,
you
I
guys
really want to thank her.
Thank you. But no, it's you guys that motivated me. And it just, but you're right. Like now it's not just about the Sister Lake. There's many other problems that we have to keep, I guess, pointing out. And where do I go from being annoying, from being an activist to being annoying now, if I keep relentlessly? I mean, you guys all know how we feel. So
it's not just your voice, it's other people as well. That's my point.
There's no really clear distinction between annoying and activist.
No, but what my mantra has been all along,
more importantly,
if enough people have the facts, the right thing will happen. So I've been very fastidious about having good information out there and to dispel any disinformation. And we've, through SRSW, have gathered all this trove of information, not just from the normal sources, but from the auxiliary sources. Just yesterday, I found as I mentioned early in this meeting, that where the locations were for these secret samples, these wells that were supposed to be put in back in 2016, 17, we couldn't get information about where those wells were going to be placed. And just yesterday, through a link that Jenny sent me for the Triangle property, I took that and applied it to those 2016 and 2017 well permits that Gelman had pulled. And lo and behold, there are some maps with those now that show where those well locations were supposed to be. And they might have been there for a while, but they weren't there the first time I looked 3 years ago. Anyway, so now I have those plotted on the Google Earth so we can find out if those wells actually got put in, were they sampled, how deep were they, how often were they sampled? Did any of the negotiators have any access to this stuff? Because it's supposed to be public knowledge if it's on the county system. And, it's too early to get answers to that. And we may not have time to get it fully answered, but that's the kind of thing that we can do as citizens. We can fill the gaps that the individual local governments don't have the staff to do. It's a public-private partnership where we provide information that the local units, or aggregated information that the local units don't have the wherewithal to provide. Kathy, I think you had weighed in there. Kathy Knoll.
Yep, I have a couple comments. I want to support what Rita just said. It's very important for the elected officials to hear public comment and public pressure. And I would say it's particularly important right now for the Scioto Township Board to be hearing from many different people. Obviously, it's better if you live in Scioto Township, but you don't have to. And we've got, our board is, different people have different opinions, as they do in many groups. That's okay. But the more pressure that is brought to bear, the better for our position. And I think it is critically important right now. We're going to be having a meeting next week, next Wednesday at 1 p.m., a special board meeting to discuss the current CJ and supporting documents. Bob Bailey, are you still in here? I think I see
Yep,
you.
yep, he's there.
He's there. Yeah.
Okay. As many Scioto Township residents who speak during that meeting would, the better. This will not be the meeting when we take a vote. That meeting has yet to be scheduled. I'm pushing on the powers that be to get it scheduled so I can let people know. People are asking me every day. I can't give them an answer at this time. So as far as the meeting goes for next week, the more people who could email the Scioto Township Board, you can email the whole board at once. The information is on the website, the better.
So I would want to make, I think you're right. I think we need to be working on that. One point I want to make, or a question I want to ask before EGLE people leave, if they haven't left already.
No, Dan.
Okay, so Dr. Robert Bailey put together a estimate of near surface exposure routes that are of concern. He came up with 100 part per billion as a quote unquote action level that would require or should require more investigation. EGLE has not gotten back to us on the viability of that. Dr. Bailey is a PhD scientist from University of Wisconsin-Madison, worked with freight and transport for 1,4-dioxane for Dow Chemical and as a consultant. So he's a very well credentialed person to do this. And it was good enough for him to do that on his own time. We presented it at a U of M conference as a poster, and Card had a poster and Dr. Bailey had a poster. So it would be great to know that what his work showed had some legitimacy, and we're still waiting for EGLE to come back and say it's either up or down. I think he did a good job. I think it was very well documented. We still have the poster. The poster's on the our watershed group's website. But I just want to reiterate that there's something that wasn't in the agenda, but it's been an ongoing question we've had. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to comment to that.
Thanks.
Our Shane Morrison did a kind of a memo to file, and I gave it to you guys. I have to go back and see what date that was. So to say we did not respond is
up or down, whether he had a legitimate.
It was evaluation of his work.
I don't remember it being up or
Send
down.
it out again, the date. I just don't remember the date it was.
I'd look it up, but I don't remember it being a definitive statement.
To that, so there was a response, whether it's a response, definitive statement response that you want. I will have to go back and there was.
We should put a link in the minutes to both of those.
Hey, Roger, this is Kristen. Do you have that response?
Do I have it in front of me?
Not in front of you. Have you received it?
I don't recall.
Okay, because I know it was sent out. I think we brought it up at a meeting last month or the month before. So I think it's been sent multiple times to this group. Happy to send it again.
Yes,
Go ahead, Bob.
It was sent out, and it wasn't a simple up and down. What it was it wasn't really germane to the approach that they were working on at that time. And so it's a different kind of question. And so I would say that one disadvantage of it is that it's the way the EGLE is organized and approaching this particular issue. So Dan Bicknell and I are actually working on expanding the scope of the work that I did beyond dioxane and see if we can get it published and move it through the more traditional scientific process rather than trying to rush something through right tomorrow.
And then this is Kristen, just one more thing in relevance, because I think we were talking about it as being a screening level for vapor intrusion.
Right.
And
Yes.
I think the statement, and I think Sean, the gentleman from EGLE who evaluated it, put a number together, and Patty, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 29 that they were looking at?
Yep, that's correct.
And again, it's a very conservative number. It's a screening level. And so as the city moves forward with their basement water sampling project, that was the number that we were going to look at to see if further action needed to be taken.
But
that's all contained in that
let's put this on the agenda for next time as an ongoing.
Sure. Also, I think our next meeting may conflict with Election Day. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to adjust the date of that meeting.
That's right, because that's a state employee holiday.
This year it is, yeah.
So what are people suggesting as an alternative? The week following? Tuesday, the week after Election Day?
Is that I don't have my calendar in front of me. It might be a Scioview board meeting. I don't have my calendar here.
It probably is somebody's board meeting if we do it at night.
Yeah,
next is Tuesday, November 10th.
That's not a quarterly meeting though, is it?
No, the next quarterly meeting, we had a quarterly meeting in September. So the next one is December.
Right.
So 6 p.m. on Tuesday, November 10th for now?
Well, I mean,
that is the Scioview board meeting, I believe.
No,
the second Tuesday of the month.
I don't know. Yeah, it would be. It's the second Tuesday. I'm just looking at this. You could still have it. I could come for the first hour. Our board meeting wouldn't be until 7. But
do we want to do it from 5 to 7 then?
Sure.
Yeah, there's nothing about travel time that we have to worry about here.
Or 4 to 6.
We're still going to be Zooming.
Or 4 to 6, and then that gives you a break before your next meeting?
I don't need a break.
Okay. What about staff? Do you guys and people, will that interfere with anyone or work schedule?
How about 4 to 6? Does that sound good to everybody? Any objections?
I will be there. This is Dan from EGLE.
Okay.
Let's do it 4 to 6 that Tuesday after Election Day.
And I think I did have the Bob vapor intrusion stuff on all the past old business, and I took it off this month because I thought we had so much to talk about. But
yeah, we didn't have time for it, as you can see. You know,
I'll add it again for next month.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with this site, is that we're all getting old, and you know, 2-hour meetings. Some of us might have to take a break in the middle of it.
Break. Yeah, thanks, Beth, for doing that.
All right, let me see.
This is Ann. I've got to say, I am busy on the 10th from 4 to 5, and I can join from 5 to 6.
Okay.
And I just want to follow on Kathy Newell's comments about putting pressure on the elected officials. And I wanted to say that a concise, short, like 3 bullets or 4 or 5 at the most, you know, bullet points of why to vote no on the CJ would be useful in putting the pressure on. And then, you know, so that to help junior commissioners and board members in all the interveners, you know, to have their talking points right handy, just to add on to putting pressure to give them the handy talking points. And then in the press release, I think we should include any of the good graphics that we've been discussing, and we should include how each of the interveners voted. And we should probably, this is a question, should we address the pipeline? Because I think the mayor and the opposition to this, to saying, the people saying yes to CJ4 are so far floating this pipeline. So we might want to include that in the press release, something about it.
Pipeline, pipeline we pay for.
Right. Right, the $1 million pipeline.
Yeah,
to
that's kind of,
nowhere. Yeah.
And why would Scioto Township want us to pipe it there? They should have problems with that because
They'll
it's more
have
broad.
problems. Yeah,
Yeah.
have problems.
And it doesn't need to go to the treatment plant because it's already been treated. So is there the storm system?
well,
I mean,
let's not get hung up on the what to do with the water. The company, that's the company's problem of how to get rid of the water. We don't need to help them get rid of their water. They know what they will have to do it. They'll have to work through the local units of government and put in a double-walled, safe pipeline to handle the volume of water they'll need to use. They don't know how much water they'll need to use because they haven't done the analysis. So we can suggest that they, do a pipeline or work, treat it to non-detect, but they have to provide, just like Dan has said more than once, the state can't direct the company to do this. They have to receive the plans from the company and respond to it. And that's really
Roger,
the position we're in. We can suggest things, but we can't force them to do it.
But it sounds like that's what Mayor Taylor at least wants to do. Can you come up with some
but
counterpoints?
The pipeline is such a minor issue, and it's not going to make the settlement acceptable. There's so many other problems with it.
Kathy?
Well, Roger mentioned before how critical data was and good data, and CARD has a reputation for having good data, complete data, accurate data. But what we have to realize is a lot of politicians are not data driven, they're ideology driven. And it's taken me decades to realize that. So when we're dealing with some of these politicians, and maybe me included, I don't know, we have to try to appeal to that ideology, not just, give them the right data and they'll make the right decision, because we know they don't.
That's right. I agree with what Kathy just said. Each person is different. Data isn't going to do it necessarily for everyone.
I'm going to show you guys this. I've showed you it before.
Data.
This is data.
Okay.
Is this good? This is a purge well. This purge well happens to be TW10. And they quit sampling from it when it was around, I don't know, what does it say here? I got to move my video screens here so I can see this. When it was 595 parts per billion, they just quit sampling it. 595 parts per billion is really high. Anywhere else in the country, the people be running around with their hair on fire to have that. TW20, they're still sampling from that. It's 800 some parts per billion. But notice how this levels off. It went down here. And then around this period of time is when I think Paul gave up. And they started looking for a buyer. And Danaher came in and bought it and continued the same leveling off of this purge well. Why is this not being pumped at a higher rate? Now, one of the things I haven't done on here is superimpose the purge rates. I think if we look back, you'll see these were higher purge rates when the well levels were going down. And when they reduced the well levels, the purge rates, then it leveled off. This is an interactive chart that anybody can go in and use. You can look at just certain types of, like you can look at just the extraction wells and say, here's what's happened to the extraction wells. And you can see there are other extraction wells. So here's an extraction well that's even going up, even as they're purging. So when people talk about this being a short-term problem, this is not a short-term problem. At around 450 to 500 gallons per minute, they are not doing what they did earlier. Anyway, I don't want to go through all the details of this, but this is a tool that anybody can use along with the Google Earth mashups that I've done, that no one else is. The judge has not seen any of this. I'm suspecting that the negotiators have not seen any of this. The lawyers haven't seen any of this. And there's things in here that can be used to force the company to do a better job. And that's all I'm going to say about it at this point. Because the time's wasting here. We gotta get on with I gotta eat dinner and other things. So any final comments from anybody? We're gonna tweak these whereases and resolutions and get those whipped into shape and send them out for people's review and get reviews back, tweak them some more, and then have a vote on it before next week. And we're going to meet a week after the November election on 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock is our next meeting. We may have a pop-up meeting if something comes up in between. And we're certainly here to answer questions and provide resources in the meantime. So thanks everybody for coming. Anything else, Beth, they needed to do here?
Harvey Summers, yeah.
Let me ask a quick question. I had to miss part of the meeting. Will the information that CARD will send out in the very near future include 3 or 4 main points that I'm going to be able to use with the SIO trustees?
Yes. I mean, thank you. You can look at the whereases. We'll be drawing from some of those.
Okay, for us non-specialists, again, succinct points would be good rather than relying on us to draw things. Just saying. But thank you for everything.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Kathy Nolan has a good view on that of what this current board needs to see.
Excuse me, I just want to say thank you, Roger, and everybody get out to vote. Thank you.
Yeah. You're going to say something, Kathy?
No, I'm just saying I can talk to Harvey privately.
Okay. You know, these Zoom meetings it's really good we have Zoom, because can you imagine trying to do this any other way? I mean, one of the features of Zoom that I haven't used a lot in not just this Zoom session, but some of these other networking groups that I used to go to several times a week, are breakout rooms. And we might need to do this in order to really learn, learn these new people and help them get up to speed. We might need to, instead of ending a meeting like this, we could go into breakout rooms, breakout room to bring new people up to speed, breakout rooms for doing you just have a handful of people discuss the resolutions, make better, do the follow-on things that you would have at a normal meeting, where people huddle around after a meeting and they have some conversations. I think that's something that we haven't done enough of in any of our Zooms, in the Zoom sessions, the networking groups that I've been part of. There's a couple tech groups that we do that. We'll talk for another hour in small groups, but is anybody feel a need to do that? I mean, like Joshua, you're kind of new to this. Is there any particular thing that would help you if we had a breakout room where, you know, you weren't one of 20 people, you're one of 5, where you can ask questions and get answers and get up to speed. And I'm reaching out to get new people involved. John, I think feel the same way, and Harvey too. I mean, I'm willing to stay on and discuss that kind of thing with you guys and get your input on it if you're open to that. Even right now, I can eat later. You're muted, Harvey.
No, I think it's very interesting. I didn't know they had breakout rooms in Zoom, but yeah, trying to do this over a conference call would be impossible, obviously. And I try to go by the rules of raising my hand so I don't speak over.
Yeah, I mean the whole Zoom thing is interesting because you don't want to
right.
You don't want to give verbal.
But I think if somebody wants to take a deeper dive into a particular issue, you know, or get down into the weeds, but let the meeting still progress along the agenda, and you can go out and then come back to it with a greater understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to miss what the rest of the people are talking about, but it can be valuable. I mean, if we were doing a negotiation, it's always valuable. And because somebody asks a question and I say, well, I have to meet with my, group over here for a second, we'll come back and answer your question. That's what breakouts have always been beneficial for.
What do you do, Joshua?
I'm the assistant division director for RRD since January. Previous to that, I was the compliance and enforcement chief for the cleanup programs. So I oversee both the Lost and the Part 201 cleanup programs and the hiring and budget and all sorts of stuff.
And when Mary comes, where does she fall into you guys?
She is our field operations section chief. So she works directly for me and supervises the east half of the state in our 4 or 5 different district offices on the east side.
It's great to have you guys.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So is this your first meeting?
No, it's not like I haven't been around the Gelman, issue for years. I just haven't been neck deep in it.
Do you have any other site that's anything close to this?
When you talk about North Kent County and PFAS,
yeah, right.
yeah. But I mean, I don't want to waste everybody's time either. But I can go into probably some stuff that you've heard Mitch Edelman say over the years. Is it Kathy Griswold? Is that right there? About because I go in front of the legislature all the time and argue about our cleanup laws. I think they're inadequate. I think our criteria are inadequate. I was actually one of the leads on the last criteria effort that got turned down. So they changed the law in 2018 to say EGLE, you can't do it based on your expertise and best available information. You're going to do it the way the politicians decide to calculate risk for the public. So, so we're hamstrung there. So, my job is to try to explain that story. I don't know all the technical details. I haven't done technical work for 15 years, but I know the program, I know the policy, I know how the politics work, and I know our program, and I know our authorities and what we can and cannot do. So if anybody needs to talk about, what we can do, what we can't do under the authority of the law, I'm happy to explain that. It doesn't mean it's going to make you happy at all.
Yeah. We understand the constraints.
I can explain the underpinnings of what 201 does and what it doesn't do, and it does not require cleanup of aquifers.
Okay. And none of my comments were directed at the state level. They were directed at city council and local government where I serve.
Yeah, I get it. But the data. I mean, even the legislature. I mean, they have a tough job too. I mean, you can throw all the data at the world, but they're not going to be able to sit and absorb it all. And with term limits, it's just we have to explain our programs and our budgets and what we do with this money. So it's an uphill battle every every turnover. And they just have, it's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming work for them, for every government official to, you know, so I appreciate any time a government official takes time out and comes to these meetings to understand the local issues, you know, when their universe is just huge and, you know, but so, you know, I can talk, I can't, you know, like I said, Dan's the technical guy. He's got a geologist. Well, he had a geologist. We're losing people left and right, and we're under a hiring freeze. So anytime we have dual paths, we have negotiations and litigation going on. It's hard. And I appreciate Roger for recognizing that. It is hard for us to get down into the good technical work when we're, you know, talking to attorneys all the time and going in front of the judge and trying to evaluate that stuff. And, you know, putting these public meetings together, it's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it does take away from the technical work because Jackson especially is strapped for resources right now. And we have put in requests to hire staff to support not just this project, but many other projects. And, you know, it's just stalled at this point. And, you know, lots of people are retiring. So,
yeah.
Now,
but so if anybody, you know, I mean, I understand the frustrations and appreciate them. I want to hear them. And what my job is to figure out, you know, what can I do under the law lawfully? You know?
Did you replace Jerry Tiernan then? No.
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, I'm 2 levels above that actually.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
So I work directly for Mike Neller. I think he came to one of the last live public hearings.
What's challenges do you have getting up to speed on a site like this?
You know, not a whole lot from technical. I mean, because our staff are pretty good at you know, explaining where we're at technically. Just means like this. I mean, I listened to. I was, you know, last couple of weeks. I've been at every public hearing listening to you guys speak about the issues and understanding. And, you know, again, I understand them. I just don't know that I have the tools in our tool chest to fix them under our state laws. I mean, that's just where we're at. So the judge is going to be looking at that too. You know, they look at public comments, but then they look at what does the law require, and is that what the public is requesting. Have they made a determination that it's unlawful under the law? Then, you know, the judge has to follow the law also. And if the law allows, you know, containment of an aquifer and instead of cleanup, well, again, if it's what is allowed, it's what's allowed, and he's got to know what authority he has to step beyond that. And if somebody can demonstrate that, well, the containment's not working because people are being exposed, well, then somebody has to show them that. You know, that's where the data is important, that, you know, there's actual exposures going on and risk. So this remedy allowed under law isn't working, not that we just don't like it. That's, you know, the difference.
Well, there are holes.
So that's what I try to understand is
there are holes in the data that could be easily filled that would help.
Okay.
And that, I don't know if that was part of the negotiations even. We know the data exists because we can see it on Gelman's reports. It's just not in the database. And as a data guy, it seems like, why not? You know, I used to work with local governments and state governments. I would set up programs for people like you to make your job easier. And now that I'm retired, I still want to do that. I want to make your guys' jobs easier. And I've got a couple tools here in place that you could use to help you and your staff understand what's really going on. And this is the time that public-private partnerships really have to come to the fore, because we don't have the wherewithal, you know, to fund. Like, we can't pay Patty to do everything that I do, right, Patty? I mean, what's your billing rate? You know, when I last worked up my old billing rate was $150 an hour. I've contributed more than $1.5 million to this site in consulting as a citizen volunteer. I want to see the right thing comes up, because this image you see behind me, that's Honey Creek right out my window here. There's dioxin in there now. And, you know, so this hits me personally. My well is closer to the creek and about the same depth as the well up at Breezewood that got hit with 1 part per billion last year. If there's higher levels of dioxin going into that creek, it could affect my wells and therefore my home value down the line. So when people say, well, you know, EPA could reduce your home value. If we continue on with sloppy cleanup, that's already happening. If you look at the assessments for the area along Honey Creek, they've already been a little flat compared to the rest of the township. And that's because we haven't taken the next step to do a leaders and best cleanup here. John, you still there? I want to hear from you.
Hello. No, I'm just taking it all in. Curious what all the entities are going to be doing. Curious what impact it's going to have with Tim Connors. And yeah, I just don't know what to think.
Well, you know, Tim lives over the plume.
Yep, I know him and Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't hurt to talk to his neighbors.
Yeah.
And Harvey.
I want to thank you for all the work you've done over the years, Roger. You know, it's,
you're welcome, but we need bodies. We need people. Harvey.
That we had 32 of us tonight, Roger.
That's a good number. I appreciate that. And there's some people that couldn't be here. And we're limited to, I think, 100 by my my $15 a month Zoom plan that I've signed up for, paid for by SR.
Well, we wouldn't fit in that little room that we used to meet in.
Yeah, that's right. There's one good thing about Zoom is we can, and the travel costs have really gone down.
We can sit in our pajamas.
And my video editing time is nil. You know, I used to set up a couple cameras and have to edit the different views. Now I'm just automatically videoing everything. So I hope nobody had any qualms about that. We didn't make the announcement like we normally do that this is all being video recorded. Harvey, did you want to say something? Looks like you had a hand up. I'd like to hear from you.
A quick question. So as I asked for succinct points being highlighted as a good thing, I wonder if cards should also note those elements of CJ4 that Judge Connors might choose to, is the word impose?
Yes.
Separately from accepting the entire season. So that again, if I'm talking to the Scioto Township people, I can say CJ4 has some good points, but it's clearly inadequate.
Yeah, we need CJ 3.5, right?
Right.
There's a couple items in that CJ that we've talked about. Yeah,
all those people that work
the
with
drinking
optics.
water standard and the GSI standard we could carry over.
In non-technical language, please.
By the way, in case you don't know, this is going to be up on YouTube. And after a day or so, YouTube creates an automatic transcript of every long video like this. And if you go down to the 3 dots when you're on the YouTube site for a video, you can click those 3 dots and open transcript is one of the options. And you can search that that transcript for keywords. Like if you say, well, we were talking about, you know, monitoring wells. I'm looking for monitoring. You can find that part of the video, and you can even share the video starting at that point. that's what I use for these long meetings, because I don't want to have to go through and say, well, was it 3/4 of the way through? Was it 1/4 of the way through? I use the transcript. I use the tools that the technology gives us, and to save time. So, use those technology tools to help form your thoughts and provide documentation. Any last minute thoughts by anybody? We covered a lot. I mean, here we are, 2 hours and 40 minutes into this. That's really, and nobody's fallen asleep. Not many people had to get up and go to the bathroom. All right. Yeah, here's
Well,
one
thanks,
of the
Roger, for organizing again.
Here's one of the reasons that I have to get other people
boy.
involved, because this is our first grandchild, and she's there about 2.5 months old, and her dad's there holding her hand saying, make more money, make more money. And now we've got a grandson coming in February, so I'm gonna, and we haven't held her yet. We've only seen her on Zoom.
Oh.
They're out in Palo Alto, so gotta work towards getting all this problem solved, not just the Kelman dioxane. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. Appreciate those insights.